Hello, I'm Erica Lipkin from Lipkin CPA PLLC, and today we'll be going over how to enter transactions from your QuickBooks bank feed. We'll be using the QuickBooks Test Drive Company Craig's Design and Landscape Services. So let's get started. So the first thing you'll do is select Transactions and Bank Transactions from the left side menu in your QuickBooks Online. Basically, the bank transaction screen is a data feed from any bank accounts, credit card accounts, and third-party services that you connect. Most banks will have a relationship with Intuit, and you'll be able to download their feeds. A few third-party providers will also have that relationship, so you can download their feeds as well. There's also a way to link manually to a spreadsheet. We won't be going over that today, but that will be basically taught in another video. So the transactions will come in as a feed, and they'll include the date, the bank description, the payee, and then a suggested category or match. And then there will either be an amount spent or an amount received. So a typical example of a receipt would be a client payment, bank interest, or some kind of refund. A typical expense will be just a business expense or just anything that outflows from your bank. Payroll could also be included in here. So what QuickBooks will do is it will try to match your transaction to an existing transaction that you've entered already. If you're using any of the invoicing or billing features or writing checks out of QuickBooks, QuickBooks will try to match that for you, but you always want to check it to make sure it's correct. So basically, let's get started and go through some of these transactions. I tend to like to start in sequential order, and you can sort by date by clicking the date column. You can sort with the oldest transaction first by having the arrow up, or the newest transaction first by having the arrow down. So I'll go ahead and start with the oldest. So here we have some transactions that QuickBooks is trying to match for us. And we can check QuickBooks logic and make sure it's correct. So we're going to go ahead and click on this transaction and see if it looks right. So when I click on it, what I'm looking for is, okay, does it have the same date? Is it the correct vendor? And is it also the right amount? So it looks like this one might be correct because everything is seeming to match. However, the date doesn't match, so this may not be correct. For the purposes of this tutorial, I'm going to go ahead and accept it. And it will typically, and sometimes it won't show the right date, but you can go into the bill and see if it looks like it may be the correct transaction. So I'll click on the bill, and it'll give me all the details of what I had recorded. And once I've verified that it is a match, I can go ahead and go back in here and click match. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and look at one more, and this one looks like it's a match. It's even the right date. I could check the bill and I can match it. Now let's say that I decided that it wasn't a correct match and that I hadn't entered the bill for the transaction. So what I would need to do is I would pick categorize. What categorize will do is it'll allow me to add a new transaction. So I'm going to go ahead and add this as a new transaction. You always have to be careful in the bank feed because if this wasn't a new transaction, I may end up with a lot of extra entries on my books. So I'm going to go ahead and select what I think is the right category for this one. And it looks like it might be office supplies, Mahoney mugs, and I'll go ahead and pick that. Okay, now let's look at a receipt. So this is basically money in, so it would be a payment receipt. So I can go in and I can check and see if it looks like it's the right invoice and payment. And it looks like it is. So I can go ahead, exit out of here, and match that one. Okay, so that's basically how you're going to handle these transactions with the matches and check them. Now let's say that I have a transaction that has no match. This could just be something that I sent through ACH and I didn't put in a bill or a check for it. So this looks like it might be some kind of equipment rental from my landscaping company. So for this, I could check and see if there's a match just to verify that I haven't entered anything, and nothing is here with that vendor. So I'll click out of it, and then I'll go ahead and basically add it. So I'm going to look for a rental, and a rental is not here, so I'll go ahead and add it as a vendor using the plus sign in the quick add. And I guess I can also put in the name of the company. If I want, I could put in my contact and all this other information, but none of it's required. And then I will go ahead and select this as a rental. So it's an equipment rental for a job. So I'm selecting that. Okay, and now I've successfully recorded that. And then this looks like it might be a refund for that same equipment rental. So I'll want to record that one to the vendor as well. And QuickBooks tries to think of ideas for how you may want to enter a transaction. So they'll make recommendations for the category, but it's important to always be checking those in case they're not correct. Okay, so that is how we enter these transactions. And then on occasion, you may have a personal expense that accidentally made its way onto your books. So let's say that I'm going to go look in the credit card now because we might have some more transactions. Not do that. Say that this Lara's lamination is a personal expense. I laminated something for my kids' school. I need to record that personally. So what I'm going to do is go in here, and I always use categorize. I don't really do transfers because they don't give you as many fields to fill in. So I'm going to go ahead, and I've set up an account in here for all my personal expenses. You can either put them through equity or a bank account. I like to set up a bank account and close it out at the end of the year for personal items. So we're going to go ahead and pick this funds spent from personal as our selection. So I pick that, and then I can go ahead and put some notes. Laminating for Billy's school. And there it is, and it's correctly categorized, and it's not on your business books anymore. So that is basically how you're going to enter the transactions.